I'm Fifi, and this is Going Deeper with the Lord. I'm bringing a Monday message on a Tuesday again, but we are here. And so I love these messages on relationships. I'm just interested in seeing why God has me invested in being aware of human relationships because it's actually helping me just even to be aware of my daily relational exchange with others. So we are here and we are talking about communications, and these are messages that I just share about the things that I am learning as I do life with others on a daily basis while doing life with the Lord, while being led by God. And relationships are a very big part of our lives because we do relationships with others on a daily basis. But it's also important for us as Christians, as believers, as those that are being led by the Holy Spirit to be aware of how we do relationships with others. So for me, this is what I'm doing. I share the things that I'm learning as I do relationships with others because doing relationships is very hard, especially when we are living surrendered lives, when we are being led by the Spirit on a daily basis, and we are doing life with other people who are not on the same path as we are. So, what I'll be talking about is communication and what I've learned about having, especially difficult communication when we are believers, when we are Christians, and we are having a difficult conversation with someone who is not living for the Lord the way we are living for the Lord. So I find that like sometimes I'll find myself in a difficult conversation, and especially the ones that I have not prayed for, that I just stumble on, like we're just having a normal conversation and all of a sudden the conversation goes left, and usually within like less than 15 seconds I realize that okay, we are not gonna go anywhere. And if I keep on going, I've realized this, and I always tell this to myself: the spirit cannot wrestle the flesh. The spirit cannot wrestle the flesh because the flesh is gonna win every time. Meaning that when we realize that there is a tug of war, we have to back away. And when I say that the spirit cannot wrestle the flesh, I mean that the spirit is gentle. The spirit leads with love. It leads with respect. It leads with gentleness. But when we're having a conversation and there is like friction, or there is like resentment along the way, or there is um the other person is being defensive and they are not hearing what we are saying, we shouldn't just trust our identity as Christians saying that, oh, I know that I'm going to be respectful, I know I want to keep on going. No, because um we are going to be impacted. The flesh is going to win, not that the spirit is weak. No, the flesh is going to win because the flesh is aggressive. And what I mean by the flesh winning is that sometimes even when after we leave that conversation, it's going to affect us. Just being in an unstable environment shakes us. It shakes us out of alignment, whether we like it or not. It's going to shake us, and we're going to leave the conversation and we'll be replaying the conversation in our heads, and then we'll be thinking, I should have said this, I can't believe she said this to me. And then all of a sudden we are creating that space and that room for offense. So what I usually do, especially when I'm having a difficult conversation that I didn't plan for, I usually realize that okay, we're not gonna go anywhere, and I say respectfully that okay, clearly we are not on the same page, and I don't think it will benefit any one of us for us to continue talking because you are seeing it this way and I'm seeing it this way. Let this rest, and then let's think about it. We'll come back to it later. But when I say this, it's not like I say it and I'm in spirit. And I usually say this realize sometimes my heart is beating because I don't like conflict. And I just love peace. And I love the peace of the Lord in my heart, that sometimes when I find myself in a conversation that I was not ready for, that is like maybe not as smooth and maybe not as gentle, it usually just gives me anxiety. So I usually just back off, say okay, clearly we are not on the same page, let this rest. And I usually pray about it. Not just meaning that every time I go and get on my knees and weep to the Lord. No, I just say, Lord, please help me. Please help me. And then when I go for prayer at a later time, I would be saying, Lord, I really want to talk about this. Or if it's something that I feel like, okay, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect them, it has nothing to do with us. I just pray to the Lord. I say, okay, just help me to let it go. And then usually, because usually it's my daughter is the one that I do life with on a daily basis at a closer range. And usually she will just come to me and say, okay, about earlier, and then she will say, I'm sorry for saying this, and then I'll say, oh, I'm sorry, and I say, "Oh, well, plus it has nothing to do with us, so we shouldn't let something that has nothing to do with us to cause conflict in our living space. But if it's something that is important, or maybe if something that maybe she ended up touching that affects the way we operate, and then there is friction, that's something that I'll take to the Lord and say, God, I want us to talk about this topic because it's affecting me. It's affecting my alignment as well, because this is something that I think about a lot, and it ends up like making me complain, or it ends up creating offense in my heart. So I'll pray and then ask God to provide an opportunity for us to be able to talk. And this works every time. Every time I pray for a hard conversation that I want to have with my daughter or with anyone, it usually just works smoothly. Yes, there might be some bumps along the way, but even if there are bumps, I'm usually like just grounded and um, gentle and at peace, and having the grace to just do it well. But when I'm caught off guard, I usually don't do very well. I get anxious, and then I just feel like, usually I just tap out and just feel like, okay, we cannot continue talking about this. Clearly we are not agreeing. So I just wanted to share this with the hope that it will help somebody, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's at home, or just even in the street. But I'm growing in the Lord to a point that I feel like even if somebody was just to come against me, or maybe in traffic, I'm not that person that fights with people in traffic. Like, I mean, even internally, when somebody feels like I cut them off or I did anything, I just say, like, I'm sorry, because you just never know. So plus I love my peace, and I don't get out there to offend anyone or want to be offended. And so this can apply anywhere, even in the workplace. I remember even when I used to when I was still at work, there were things that I was a social worker, and this was like very sensitive because we were dealing with families, and there were things that God would tell me, speak up, and I will be so scared to say, Lord, we'll be in a meeting and there will be something that I'm dissatisfied with that regards my clients, and the Lord will tell me to speak up. But I will speak up, even though my heart I'll be anxious, but it will be good anxiety that I'm just scared that this is something that they're not expecting for us to bring up, but this is something that is probably not gonna land well. But all the time, I will just do it scared. But God will give me the grace to say it well, say it respectfully, and then it will be received very well. And usually, I had a very, very good manager, I had an excellent supervisor. So usually, they will just acknowledge what I was saying. So I wanted to share this, brothers and sisters, because communication is one of the things that divide us in relationships, is one of the things that frustrates us. And it's always a good thing if one of us has the tools, not the tools, like one of us finds something that works for them and shares it. If anyone out there has a tool that works for them, please share, because we need this to have proper relationships or proper communication in our relationships. Because if we are rattled in the spirit, if there is something that is bothering us, it will take us out of alignment. It doesn't take long for us to be misaligned with the Spirit of the Lord. So for us to always be on track, for us to always be aligned, we just need to be aware of how we are doing relationships with others. Brothers and sisters, that's all that I had for us today. Sorry for the message that's coming late, but it is here, and it is about communication, being respectful, stepping away, saying, okay, we cannot do this now. Maybe let's talk later. And then, if possible, just ask God to help us. And no, not if possible, all the time. If it didn't work first, and we were caught off guard, let's ask God to help us to execute it very well. But if we know that this is a difficult conversation that I want to talk to this person about, let's go to God and pray about it and ask God to prepare our hearts and prepare their hearts, prepare our eyes, prepare our ears, and prepare their eyes and ears so that we're able to look at each other, hear each other well, hear what the other person is saying exactly the way they want us to receive it, vice versa. Brothers and sisters, have a great week and thank you for spending time. See you in the next video.